Jealousy can lead people to make unkind choices, especially in sensitive situations like weddings. My stepsister Charlotte tried to sabotage my wedding by falsely claiming that my fiancé, Noah, wanted to run away with her. This was shocking and hurtful, as Noah is my partner of nearly 7 years. To give some background, I recently celebrated my marriage at a beautiful ceremony that included my family and guests, with Charlotte being among them. Charlotte and I have a long history. Our parents got married when I was 9 and she was 8 after dating for a few years. We had already known each other for a while since our parents had been together before they tied the knot. I still remember meeting her when I was 6 and she was 5, we got along well and enjoyed each other's company. Living in a neighborhood with few kids, I was always excited whenever Charlotte and her father visited us. We shared laughter and fun, and our bond grew as we got older. Up until middle school, I considered Charlotte a close friend. However, everything changed when we started high school. It's unfortunate that our relationship took a turn, mainly due to our mutual feelings for the same boy, Noah. My backstory includes a difficult past. My biological father was never in my life. He cheated on my mother while she was pregnant, and when I was born, he chose to walk away. Since he was never married to my mother, I grew up never knowing him. My stepdad became my first father figure, and my mother raised me with love. On the other hand, Charlotte faced her own struggles. She lost her mother at a young age due to health issues related to her pregnancy. As a result, my mother and Charlotte's father both had full custody of us, which led to a close relationship because we spent so much time together. We were practically inseparable. Our close bond lasted until high school. Charlotte, despite being a year younger, started school early and ended up in the same grade as me. We took several classes together, and it was during this time that Noah entered our lives. He was new to our high school, having moved to our town that year. I found him attractive and kind, and I could tell that Charlotte felt the same way. Understanding the potential for tension, Charlotte and I had a heart-to-heart conversation. We agreed that we wouldn't pursue Noah out of respect for one another. At that age, we thought we could handle our little crushes and still remain friends. However, things didn't go as we hoped. As we spent more time with Noah through our classes, my feelings for him deepened. He truly seemed like everything I had ever wanted in a boyfriend. Though Noah often flirted with me, I held true to my promise to Charlotte and never crossed that line. We avoided discussing him, keeping the topic off limits to prevent any awkwardness. This unspoken agreement helped us maintain our friendship, but as our senior year progressed, the tension began to build. The prom season approached, and one day, just as I was about to accept an invitation from someone else, I learned from Noah that Charlotte had asked him to go to prom. This revelation sent my emotions into turmoil, highlighting the fragile state of our once close relationship. The jealousy and misunderstanding that arose from this situation would eventually lead to a series of events that culminated in trouble for us both, but it was Charlotte's actions leading up to my wedding that ultimately took the situation to a new level. I discovered from Noah that Charlotte had asked him to go to prom with her. When we were alone, he confronted me about it and revealed that not only had she invited him to prom, but she had also expressed her feelings for him, stating that she wanted to be more than just friends. I was taken aback by this information, especially since Charlotte had previously assured me that she would never pursue anything romantic with Noah and insisted that I should do the same. This betrayal felt completely unacceptable, and I was deeply hurt by her actions. As Noah continued speaking, he shared that he had turned Charlotte down because he only saw her as a friend. He admitted that even though he had sensed her attempts to flirt with him, he had never returned those feelings. He explained that since the beginning of our friendship, ever since he had joined the school, Charlotte had been trying to get his attention. Whenever it was just the two of them, her behavior changed, suggesting that she had feelings for him. However, he had chosen not to act on this because he was interested in me. Noah revealed that the reason he confronted me about all of this was his growing frustration over my lack of response to his feelings. Despite his efforts to get me to flirt back, I had never shown any interest in him. With graduation approaching and our lives about to take different paths as we headed to college, Noah felt it was time for a definitive answer regarding our relationship. He wanted to know if there was any chance for us, and he made it clear that if I didn't feel the same way, he would need to consider other options for prom. I still recall that day with great clarity. It was a pivotal moment in my life. After our conversation, I felt disoriented and overwhelmed. Not only had Noah finally admitted that he had feelings for me, but I was also grappling with the revelation that Charlotte had broken her promise to me by pursuing him. This hurt deeply because I had always viewed her as a sister, and I couldn't believe she would jeopardize our friendship in this way. After Noah left, I realized I needed some time to process everything. I told him I would think about it and give him an answer the following day. I felt lost and unsure of how to respond because my decision depended heavily on what I would discuss with Charlotte later that evening. I decided to skip the rest of my classes, feeling sick to my stomach about the new reality I was facing. I didn't want to walk home with her after learning the truth. When I finally got home and waited for Charlotte, she acted completely normal, as if nothing had happened. She didn't mention anything about her feelings for Noah or the fact that she had asked him to prom, despite our previous promises to each other. This lack of acknowledgement prompted me to confront her directly. I asked her if it was true that she had invited Noah to prom and confessed her feelings. As soon as I brought it up, she became defensive, insisting that it was none of my business since it was between her and Noah. However, it was very much my business. She had committed to me that she wouldn't pursue him, and I had kept my promise by pushing my own feelings aside. It wasn't fair that she had been open about her affection for Noah while I had been holding back my emotions. At that moment, I realized I wasn't just fond of Noah, I was likely in love with him. It was incredibly challenging to ignore his advances for the sake of my friendship with Charlotte. I had prioritized her feelings over my own struggles, only to find out she hadn't done the same for me. This confrontation escalated into a heated argument, and in that moment, I made the decision that I would accept Noah's interest and pursue a relationship with him. It was clear to me that Charlotte had not valued our friendship the way I had believed she would. It became clear to me that Charlotte had no regard for my feelings at all. After everything that had happened, I realized I had been prioritizing her emotions over mine for too long. During our argument, she had made it explicitly known that she had intended to protect my feelings by making a promise to me, all while acknowledging that if it came down to a choice, Noah would undoubtedly choose her over me. That statement was incredibly self-centered, and it marked the end of any friendship I had left with her. To betray me in such a profound way felt like the worst kind of disloyalty. The very next day, I decided it was time to tell Noah the whole truth. I revealed everything, the promise I had made with Charlotte and the details of the fight that had unfolded between us. Noah listened patiently and was very understanding. He reassured me that he was willing to wait for me, no matter how long it took for me to sort through my feelings. However, I couldn't keep pretending any longer. I admitted to him that I loved him deeply and that my feelings were undeniable. So, we made the decision to start dating that very same day, and it marked the beginning of 7 wonderful years together. I had no regrets about my choice, even if it meant severing ties with Charlotte. After that confrontation, we cut ties with her completely. Noah found it easier to move on, while I faced a more complicated situation since I lived with her. In the past, we had shared a room, but after our fight and my new relationship with Noah, she moved to the basement to have her own space. I had no issues with this arrangement. Our parents asked us multiple times what had gone wrong between us, but I chose to remain silent about the details, and I suspect Charlotte did the same. We simply stopped communicating altogether after that fateful day. The initial period of silence was quite challenging, but eventually, we adapted to the change. Noah and I both enrolled in the same college, while Charlotte chose a school located across the country. This distance meant I wouldn't have to see her regularly for the next few years, only encountering her during the holidays. After we graduated from college, Noah and I were still thriving as a couple, while Charlotte had also begun dating someone from her university. With time, the argument we had seemed less significant, almost like a scene from a high school drama, petty and irrelevant to our adult lives. At family gatherings, we found ourselves in situations where we would see each other once more. Although we made no active effort to rekindle our former closeness, we became civil enough to acknowledge each other with a simple greeting, keeping our conversations to small talk and safe subjects. As we transitioned into adulthood, our relationship continued to evolve. Last year, Charlotte announced her engagement to her college boyfriend, and I congratulated her, although it felt somewhat bittersweet. In our childhood, we had often imagined ourselves as each other's maids of honor during pretend weddings, yet now, as I attended her wedding, I was merely a guest. While I was glad to see us acting like adults and mending our relationship in a way, I couldn't shake the sadness that came with realizing our friendship would never return to what it once was. Since her engagement, we had maintained a cordial relationship. She even seemed comfortable around Noah, and despite the past, I knew it was wise not to bring him to her wedding, as that might have been awkward and inconsiderate. Yet, she caught on to my decision. During our conversations after the ceremony, she remarked that I could have invited Noah since she had moved on and no longer cared about our history. I should have taken her word for it, but recent events have shown me that she hadn't truly moved on, and her actions proved she remained incredibly thoughtless. A few months ago, around 8 weeks back, Noah surprised me with a marriage proposal, and I, of course, said yes. The timing felt perfect. He had just received a promotion at work, and I had left my job to assist a friend with her startup. Life seemed to be aligning beautifully. I had been eagerly looking forward to my wedding day, hoping it would be a joyous occasion filled with happiness and good memories. The last thing I wanted was for any stress or drama to overshadow what should have been a beautiful day. However, in hindsight, I realized that inviting Charlotte was a misstep if I truly wanted to keep the day peaceful. Charlotte had offered her congratulations when I got engaged, and from that moment on, I thought everything was fine between us. I sent her an invitation to the wedding, and she happily accepted, which led me to believe all would go smoothly. Unfortunately, just a week before the wedding, Charlotte made a surprising, unwelcome move that suggested she had other plans. Noah and I had chosen to host our wedding in a lovely hotel a bit outside of town. Most of our close friends and family were staying at the hotel with us, creating a warm, intimate atmosphere. We had arrived at the venue 2 days before the big day, along with our parents, bridesmaids, and groomsmen. The rest of our loved ones, including those traveling from afar, had started to filter in the day before the wedding. Charlotte and her husband were supposed to arrive the day before the wedding as well, but to our surprise, they showed up on the same day we did. This unexpected timing threw us off balance a bit, but they played it off as a simple mistake. Thankfully, the hotel still had some empty rooms available, so they were able to settle in without much hassle. I genuinely believed that Charlotte had mixed up her plans, and I didn't think much of it at the time. I was completely unaware of the scheme she had in mind. However, as I was getting ready on the day of my wedding, things started to take a strange turn. While I was having my makeup done, I noticed Charlotte repeatedly glancing out of my room. Her behavior struck me as odd because most guests were either relaxing in their rooms or enjoying the hotel amenities. After all, we had reserved a large area of the hotel for our celebration, and people were free to do as they pleased until it was time for the ceremony to begin. For Charlotte to be hovering outside my room felt particularly strange, especially since she was neither part of the bridal party nor my family. Once I was ready, my bridesmaids and my mother went to their own rooms to prepare, with just 1 hour left before the ceremony was set to start. Since they didn't require much time to get ready, I assumed we would have ample time to make it to the venue punctually. To calm my nerves, I decided to take a short walk down the corridor outside my room, knowing I couldn't venture far, as I didn't want anyone to see me in my wedding dress just yet. It was during this brief stroll that I unexpectedly encountered Charlotte. She quickly pulled me aside, claiming she wanted to discuss something incredibly important with me. I had no idea what this could possibly entail, as our conversations had always remained surface level, lacking any personal connection. Nevertheless, my curiosity got the better of me, so I allowed her to speak. Charlotte then proceeded to tell me that she had actually arrived at the hotel a day earlier than planned, but not by accident. She claimed that Noah had asked her to come early. Her story was that Noah had reached out to her approximately 2 weeks before the wedding, expressing doubts about marrying me. According to her, he allegedly confided that he was having cold feet and feared that marrying me might be a mistake. This revelation left me in shock. She insisted that he had told her he was no longer in love with me but had developed feelings for her instead all this time. Charlotte spun a tale suggesting that Noah and she had been in contact behind my back for a significant period, but she assured me it had all been platonic until recently. She claimed he pressured her to come to the hotel sooner so they could escape together. She painted a picture of Noah being too afraid to confront me directly because he worried about how I might react. She angled for sympathy, stating that she couldn't betray me by agreeing to any of Noah's reckless plans, despite his insistence. At that moment, I was filled with disbelief and confusion. The wedding I had envisioned, the day meant to celebrate love and commitment, was suddenly clouded by Charlotte's unexpected revelation and the chaos she was attempting to create. Charlotte, my supposed friend, clearly thought she could come to me with a so-called honest confession right before my big wedding day. It was as if she believed that revealing this huge thing, at that moment, was a good idea. However, I could see right through her lies. I knew Noah, my fiancé, and I had complete faith in him. He was the kind of person who would never betray me in that way. Noah was straightforward, always honest. If he had something to say, he wouldn't hesitate to tell me directly. He was certainly not one to sneak around and create trouble. The story Charlotte was spinning about him just didn't match his character, which made it easy for me to recognize that she was being dishonest. What made it even worse was that Charlotte acted as if she was genuinely concerned for me and my relationship, but it felt calculated, as if she was trying to stir up drama where there was none. I suspected she aimed to ruin my wedding day, and that thought made me furious. In a moment of defiance, I decided to take action that would turn her own ploy back on her. I pulled out my phone and called her husband while standing right in front of her. I didn't have his phone number, but I had him on Instagram, so I placed the call that way. All the while, I pretended to be devastated, making sure Charlotte couldn't see what I was really doing. She probably assumed I was going to confront Noah, which was exactly what she wanted, but she had no idea I was actually contacting her husband, who was somewhere else in the hotel. To my relief, he answered right away. I recounted everything Charlotte had told me about Noah, asking if there was any truth to her claims. Charlotte remained silent, likely thinking I was speaking to Noah instead. I couldn't quite understand what Charlotte's intention was because a quick look at their texts and emails would reveal the truth. Regardless, after I finished my conversation, I put my phone on speaker so Charlotte could hear her husband's response. When he heard the accusations, he was taken aback and said he would return to his room immediately. At that moment, when Charlotte realized the voice on the line belonged to her husband and not Noah, she absolutely lost it. She began screaming at me, accusing me of trying to sabotage her marriage on purpose. I calmly told her that I was merely giving her a taste of her own medicine and then walked back to my room. I updated my bridesmaids about the situation, instructing them to ensure that Charlotte did not make an appearance at the wedding or during the ceremony. I simply could not trust her anymore and wanted her far away from my special day. Fortunately for me, the ceremony went off without a hitch. Charlotte did not show up, likely too preoccupied with dealing with her husband after her little stunt. No one at the wedding seemed to notice her absence, except for our parents, who asked where she was after the ceremony. I told them I would explain later, but in truth, I had no intention of sharing the details. It simply didn't matter to me at that moment. Once everything was wrapped up from the wedding, I contacted the hotel to inquire about Charlotte's room. To my satisfaction, they informed me that she had checked out during the wedding, and she was gone. In the aftermath of the event, no one mentioned anything about Charlotte, and I felt relief wash over me. All I wanted was to enjoy being a newlywed without the shadow of her antics looming over me. I did share the story with Noah, and we both had a good laugh about the ridiculousness of it all, but that was the extent of our discussion. However, as time passed, it became a week since the wedding, and just 2 days ago, I received news from our parents. They informed me that Charlotte and her husband were separating, and her husband had apparently revealed that he was deeply unhappy, which added another twist to the unfolding drama. Someone informed me that her husband had called them and expressed his anger about how terrible Charlotte was behaving. He was upset because Charlotte refused to leave their house and threatened to call the police if she didn't go with them. This situation led to the revelation that they were separating. The reason behind this was quite alarming. Her husband discovered that Charlotte had intentionally arrived early at the wedding venue to ruin my event. He had received the full story from me and had been hearing about how wonderful Noah was for a long time. Charlotte's friends, who were clearly not very wise, had been constantly telling her that she should have ended up with Noah instead. This constant comparison drove her husband to his breaking point. He could see that Charlotte still had feelings for Noah, and it became clear to him that her actions were an attempt to sabotage my wedding. This behavior was the final straw for him, leading him to decide that their marriage could not continue. Despite Charlotte's insistence that she loved her husband, he could no longer ignore the reality that she was in love with someone else, which prompted him to initiate divorce proceedings. Now, adding to my confusion, my parents believe I am somehow responsible for this situation. They hold me accountable for the breakdown of Charlotte's marriage, convinced that I should have kept her issues with her husband separate from my own life. They think that by contacting her husband, I played a role in ruining her marriage. My parents expect me to apologize to Charlotte, and they have stopped talking to me since I refused. This reaction leaves me bewildered. I do not see how any of this is my fault. Charlotte's actions were extreme and uncalled for, and I only responded when she tried to hurt me first. It's unjust to blame me for her marital problems when she is the one who brought this chaos into her life. Noah shares my perspective, agreeing that I should not bear the blame for Charlotte's choices. However, many of our mutual friends and my parents seem to side with Charlotte. This situation is affecting me deeply. It frustrates me to be accused of causing trouble in her marriage when that was never my intent. I did not initiate any of this. I simply addressed Charlotte's attempts to sabotage my happiness. In an update, I want to thank everyone who responded to my original post. Their encouragement helped me realize that my feelings about my parents and some friends were justified. As a result, I have chosen to distance myself from them. Continuing to engage with people who blame me for something I did not do would only lead to further complications. It has become clear to me that some of my friends were never truly loyal, and if they want to side with Charlotte despite the truth, that is their choice. Ultimately, Charlotte is the one at fault, and if anyone should be apologizing, it should be her. In another update, Noah and I have gone on our honeymoon, nearly 2 weeks after the wedding. I still have not spoken to my parents or friends, and honestly, it hasn't been too painful. Now that I have Noah by my side, the absence of those relationships feels less significant. Although I find the lack of communication with my parents upsetting, I keep wanting to reach out to my mom. Even though I feel disconnected from those people, I am trying to focus on my life with Noah. There are moments when I find myself reaching for my phone, wanting to send a message to my mom or call my stepdad just to share a laugh with him. I picture a lighthearted conversation, something that would brighten the day. But then reality hits me. I remember that they have chosen to support Charlotte in this situation. From what I know, she is living with them now and I can't help but think she is filling their heads with untrue stories about me. It seems like she is trying to paint me as the villain, and by doing so, she is pushing my family away from me. I worry that by the time I return home, my parents might end up resenting me. I can see where my stepdad is coming from. He wants to be there for his daughter during her tough times. However, I struggle to understand why my mom isn't taking my side. After all, she was cheated on by my dad, who left to be with someone she considered a friend. Isn't that exactly what Charlotte is trying to do to me? She wants to take Noah away from me for herself, just like my father did to my mother. I feel that my mother, more than anyone else, should understand my anger and my actions. If she believes I'm the bad guy in all of this, I'm at a loss for words. It is frustrating to feel so misunderstood by her. Even with these heavy thoughts on my mind, I try to remind myself that Noah and I are currently enjoying our honeymoon. I hope this special time together will lift my spirits and help me forget my worries, even if just for a while. On the third day of our honeymoon, I received a text from my mom. I decided not to open it right away, choosing instead to focus on the moment and enjoy my time with Noah. I wanted to savor each experience without the cloud of possibly bad news hanging over me. It might sound strange, but I want to hold on to the joy of this trip. After all, a honeymoon is a unique moment that happens only once. Now that I'm back home, the first thing I did was check that message from my mom. She told me that she had allowed Charlotte to stay with them for a few days, but it became too difficult to handle. Charlotte spent that time talking badly about me, and eventually, my mom and stepdad realized that they had made a mistake in supporting her. They understood what Charlotte's behavior was doing to my relationship with them and how it was ruining my wedding. My parents decided it was time to ask Charlotte to leave. They have invited me over for dinner this weekend to make amends. They explained that they lost sight of things while trying to support Charlotte during her divorce. Now, they regret their choices and want to apologize. I feel a wave of relief wash over me. Noah and I are both excited about the dinner because it could be a turning point for us all. In the end, it seems like everything is falling back into place, and I truly hope we can move past this without experiencing such drama again.